as we've reached the police station, we're going to have our public speakers. If you have an experience of police brutality, or if you have witnessed police brutality in Providence, we encourage you to come up and speak. Let us know if you're okay being recorded for our, testimony. We're putting together a documentary. And our first speaker, Damon. Woo!
My name is Damon Jury, and I'm a sophomore at Classical High School. My name is Damon Jury, and I'm a sophomore at Classical High School here in Providence, and an organizer for PROVEX. On August 14th, 2020, I was arrested at a peaceful protest at the Garrahy Judicial Complex. I was put in a chokehold and brought to the ground by 5 officers twice my size. A second-grade school teacher, Nika Salazar, was arrested as well for trying to pull me from their grip. With their knees on my back as they put the cuffs on, they carried me into booking while calling me a fucking punk. Several videos of my arrest posted to social media plainly show the gross use of force against a 15-year-old who weighs less than 130 pounds and the subsequent arrest of an innocent school teacher. What happened to Jhamal was beyond tragic and unacceptable, but it's nothing new. Since the beginning of the summer, we've been bombarded with images and videos of police brutality and violence across the country. In Providence, there was this misconception that we were untouched or spared, but that misconception is rooted in misinformation and blind trust in the systems built to oppress brown and black individuals. The same system that maces peaceful protesters, uses excessive force, and has no respect for the citizens and lives they're sent to protect and serve. Jhamal is a victim of the system who has been publicly brutalized and now sustains injuries and remains partially in a coma due to the actions of a Providence police officer. And that officer, Kyle Andres, is now on paid, or at the time that I wrote this speech, is on paid death duty. He only got 2 days of suspension. When he should be in jail. Despite all of this, our mayor and police officials still believe that this is up for interpretation, but there is absolutely nothing to interpret. If there is anything that we can learn from this, it's that the Providence Police Department does not serve the people. They are protecting nobody but themselves in their own interests. No justice, no peace. Thank you. Woo!
Notice how the Providence police are lined up, how they're dressed for this protest. Regardless of what we do, we will always be seen as a violent protest, a violent act, because we're fighting for humanity. We're fighting for all of us to be treated correctly, with love, with care, and that's not what they stand for. They've got on riot gear at 2 p.m. on a Thursday.
Shift change.
Blocked up the entire streets. They've got zip ties, and they're waiting and ready to pounce on us.
They weren't ready for the Capitol building, man. I don't understand.
And they're up on the top in the garage.
Oh, over there too. Hi, buddy.
And this is from our tax dollars. This is our money that they're using to intimidate us, to scare us, and to further oppress us. How can you blame people that resort to violence when you show up to protest like this? Is it not our right to protest? But we get blocked off and we're trying to get onto Atwells Avenue.
Yeah, they blocked that off.
Just because Gina's there.
All because the governor's there, who's a hypocrite, don't go outside, don't dine in the restaurants, but there she is on Atwells having drinks with no mask on.
I don't see a brown face.
I don't understand. And I also want to point out, this is not a movement that we're going to let die. Justice for Jhamal is justice for us all. We all think, here and there, oh, it's not going to be me, I'm not going to have to deal with this, but that's wrong. The police have no end they have immunity to do whatever they want to us. So today it may not be you, but the next day it might be you. That's why we have to keep fighting. And tomorrow, Mark is going to be leading a protest from the Attorney General's office. So make sure you stay connected and you continue to come out and you continue to support and amplify the voices that are being oppressed in your community.
Helmet and Bill Jennings.
We fired up, won't take it no more. We fired up,
Won't take it no more.
we're fired up.
Won't take it no more.
Peace. My name is Indira and I'm an organizer for the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Last time we were here demanding Officer Kyle Andres be immediately fired and charged for using his 5,000-pound police cruiser to hit Jhamal. Demanding he should be charged for exactly what we witnessed, be charged for exactly what witnesses saw and what we could clearly see on the viral video, bringing this case of police brutality to the national spotlight. Instead of firing the officer, Providence Police Department blocked roads, not allowing us to meet for our demonstration, and targeted the biking community just minutes before the demonstration. Our peaceful march demanding justice for Jhamal ended when they greeted us in riot gear. They tried to paint the narrative against us, but we know what happened that night. Video coverage showed police attacking protesters 3-1. Dozens were arrested and one person was beaten so badly he had a seizure. I was covering the event for Liberation News and was denied access. Myself and other journalists with badges in hand asked the officer blocking us from the police riot, where we could clearly hear screaming and chaos, what was happening, who was harming who. The officer called the 4 other officers and threatened to arrest us immediately. The following day, despite all this evidence, the mayor questioned whether excessive force was used and needed to take a closer look. The mayor also said the investigation into Kyle Andres striking Jhamal would take only 2 weeks. Instead, for months, Kyle Andres continued to work throughout the investigation. Despite the mayor facing weekly backlash from his constituents, who demanded that their tax dollars not pay the officer during the investigation. In the face of truth-telling, in the truth-telling phase Mayor El Rosa spoke about in the uprisings this summer, in the reparations plan for the Black community here in Providence, when truth-telling actually mattered, when Jhamal is still in a coma and the city isn't paying reparations to his family, it showed clearly where his interests lie. Not with Jhamal and his family for justice, but just with paying lip service. The Attorney General, Providence Police, and the mayor were working together and there was no independent investigation. Why else would they go through all these lengths to intimidate and silence the community and delay the investigation? It's not just a few rotten apples. It's the tree and it's the trunk and the roots too. The Providence Police have terrorized Black and brown communities for way too long. There are $88 million and more devoted to the police that could and should be spent on essential workers, the masses of Black, brown, and working class people who have suffered the most during this pandemic. The negligence from this state has been costly for its people here. We have been one of the worst states with the highest rates of COVID-19. The police, the mayor, the city government have all worked together to allow these terrible crimes, demonstrating their hostility to the very people they claim to serve. They have organized themselves to occupy the streets of the working class community, surveil, harass, and abuse people. The police act like an occupying army in the Black, Native, and Latinx communities. This isn't just Providence. This isn't just Rhode Island. The struggle for justice for Jhamal and his family are part of a larger struggle across the nation against racist police terror. Fighting for Jhamal means fighting for every life lost or damaged by this racist state. In their own words earlier this summer, they said racism is a cancer if it goes unchecked. So if the police and their accomplices are truly a cancer, they must be checked. We are the ones who need to check them. Only the organization of the masses of people coming together in the streets can overpower their corruption and brutality. We demand to reopen the cases, reparations for Jhamal and his family, and immediately cut the Providence Police Department budget by 70%.
We're gonna open the floor for open mic if you have an experience of police brutality or if you just want to. And Marco was going to speak next.
Hi y'all. So I want to talk a little bit about the unconstitutional actions of the Providence Police, especially on the night of the Jhamal Gonsalves protest. My sibling was driving down Westminster and saw as the police attacked random people who were walking away from them with their heads down. I watched that happen on a live stream. I watched a man with his head down get grabbed by the police, thrown on the ground, and overpowered by 5 police officers. I talked to that man's wife the next day. She wanted to get his schizophrenia medication to him, and they would not let her. My sibling saw what was going on and got out of the car. Immediately, they were ambushed by 5 police officers, at least, who beat them on the body with batons, threw them on the ground, smashed their face into the concrete where their nose was bleeding into their mask. When they were arrested, they were thrown into the back of a paddy wagon, and Jhamal's cousin, who was also beaten by the police so badly that he was having a seizure, was thrown on top of them. For several minutes, they were begging the police officers to take this man out and to get him medical attention while he was clearly having a seizure, and they ignored for many minutes, which could have cost him his life. Once at the police station, my sibling, along with almost every single person that was there, was not given a phone call to their lawyer, was not given a phone call to their family for over 12 hours when they were being held. No answers. No answers for anyone on the outside either. I was calling until almost 4 in the morning. I didn't know if my sibling was in the hospital, if they were in state police custody, or if they were in Providence Police custody for over 6 hours from their arrest. How is this legal? How is this okay constitutionally? They weren't given access to their lawyer, they weren't given access to their family, they weren't given access to their medications.
Amen.
And to top it all off, they asked for another mask because they bled into theirs from the face and were not given another mask. They said they didn't have enough masks to go around, so they had to sit with a bloody, crusty mask for over 12 hours. And these police officers wonder why they have such a high COVID positivity rate. And that's just one person's story of many people's stories that were arrested that night. People who may not themselves have been committing violent acts against the police or anything like that were just caught up because they were nearby. Even if they were committing a crime, once they're in detention, they don't have access to their lawyer. They're not treated like human beings anymore. They don't get PPE. It's disgraceful. So I can only imagine how the police treat people on a daily basis when they're in their custody. Thank you.
On your prayers, and I'm going for Harold Jennings.
You gotta squeeze it.
Bill Jennings, Harold Met. We need help. There's something wrong.
You gotta hold on to it.
Bill Jennings, Harold Met, on your prayers. I need help. It's bad. Help us.
My name is Bella Noka. I know some of you know me. I grew up in Providence. Chad Brown, East Side, Fox Point. I now live in South County. This is going out to you, Mr. Clemens, Chief Clemens. I grew up watching people's heads being busted open with billy clubs, right from my front steps. I watched as the rookies would come through Fox Point, and I know them by name today. I knew them by name yesterday. And today, those same people who were busting heads and going up inside of young girls' vaginas to check for drugs and igniting sneakers on fire because they did not like that people had expensive sneakers. We had to call internal affairs on these officers, And today they hold pretty prestigious positions throughout the state of Rhode Island. It's really, really sad that it's been exposed that the people who are supposed to protect us are the people that are abusing our children. We pay taxes for this protection, which goes into your salaries. And we are sending our children out on the streets to go to work, to go to school, and we expect for them to return home safe. And they don't. They are abused and brutalized by the police.
We need help.
The same people who are supposed to protect us, protect our children. I know many of you have children. I know you must care for your children. What makes you think that we don't care any less about our children? You can look at each other and you can act like you don't hear me, but you do, because you cannot ignore spirit. And spirit is working through all of you. And all of you are being exposed. Like I said earlier, on January 6th, we've seen the infiltration of police forces, police departments, the lawyers, the judges, politicians. You are being exposed and you can't hide anymore. There is a big light shining on you. So you're about to trip up or slip up. You can't hide from the truth. And your day is coming. We ask that you keep our kids safe. Keep your hands off of our children. Honor the code that you said you will honor. And leave us the hell alone.
And let us live.
Bella.
Hey there, everybody. My name's Jason, and I just wanted to. I'm gonna say a speech. It's called "The State Isn't for Us," and it's just about like having to be born into a place that like comes off as being good and safe for you, and then having to figure out over time that that's just like not true, and seeing over and over the ways that like the things that are supposed to be safeguards aren't, that type of thing. Like I said, I'm here to talk about what it feels to grow up in a place that tells you from the youngest age all men are created equal, and then proves to you over and over how untrue that is. In the words of Justice Amir James, a community organizer, I hope a lot of us know, someone that works at DARE and prison.
Take it to the house.
You know, it's the experience of being politically and economically gaslit your entire youth, and then being forced into the consequences of adulthood as the system explodes around you. It's watching as you simply say to the state, please stop hurting us, please stop traumatizing us, please stop lying to us. And having the watchdogs and protectors come out and call us radical, and call us disrespectful, and try and force us to respect the groups and institutions that have been proven to exist to keep us down. Right before they drive a cruiser into one of our children and leave them catatonic. I can't explain what it's like to grow up being fed a pretty cleaned up lie and having to take steps or be brutalized into realizing that the world around us was built on the tragedies of our ancestors. Surrounded by white supremacy on all sides, like the children at East Hopkins Middle School, who have to walk into a school every day, surrounded by words that commemorate the very pain that caused, the very people that caused their ancestors pain. I'm going to tell you a little story about a part of Rhode Island. In the words of a young high schooler from the area, from the East Hopkins Middle School, from that space, this place suppresses kids before they even start their day and remind the white kids that they are better. This state, Rhode Island, is filled with reminders of slavery. But these reminders aren't built to show us what happened. They're built and still are celebrating what the people who were leaders back then, who were slavers and slaveholders. The state, whether it's the dominating grip that Brown University holds on so much of the economy and government, or the projects like Chadwick Brown, where fellow black folk have to live, dealing with over-policing, and the physical reality that they are not as important as the rest of our state. It's clear that our state loves to make black people stay and go to places named after slavers. How do you think this speaks to us black people and the black youth of Rhode Island to see these realities? It's clear from our end, so much of that white supremacy is still here. How can you look us in the face and justify having these celebrations of slavery still here? Especially when we've told you the pain it causes us, and this year has shown us so much of the racism that it exists in our country. I'm going to tell you just a little bit. We're trying to get Rhode Island to get rid of Isaac Hopkins' celebration, get rid of him at the middle school, get rid of him as the statue. And we've tried petitioning the people in charge. Right now, there's only one man in our way, one decision maker that we have to charge. His name is Nick Narducci.
Like this, people to police brutality.
All right. I don't have anything more to say.